How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the next episode. We are back talking about football, having a great day. Man, it feels like Christmas morning. I even had to get my Christmas cup here. The draft is just Christmas for football fans. It is just the best thing ever. We get a bunch of new stuff, a bunch of new players. It's amazing. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. There's a lot to talk about. It's been a while. A little bit about me. I was off the Giants bandwagon, but clearly you can see the flag behind me, the sweatshirt on me. I'm excited. So I'm looking forward to catching up here.
Yeah, no, I remember the last couple podcasts we've been doing. I still ask you Giants stuff here and there, but you've kind of been like, I don't really know, man. Like, it's just tough to root for them. But let's just get right into it, and we'll start with the Giants because of it. But was it this draft that got you so excited about the Giants again? And what was it?
It was, yes. So it was the draft, and I'm genuinely excited to talk about football. It's been a little bit since I've been excited to talk about it. And it's just the intelligence of the draft in the first round that got me excited to start. So taking the best player, regardless of the position at 3, was a great move. Abdul Carter, in my opinion, we never really got to talk about the draft class. He was my favorite player in the draft. We'll talk about Travis Hunter a little later. Regardless of where Abdul Carter went, he was the best player in the draft, in my opinion. I actually had hoped for a while he would fall to 4 to the Patriots.
Me too.
But when the Giants... Yeah, he was great. And I actually, nothing against Will Campbell. I'm a big Will Campbell fan. There's so much to talk about. But yeah, the intelligence of taking Carter at 3, taking the best player, and then trading back into the first round ahead of the Rams, by the way, who I believe would have taken Dart, to take Jackson Dart, and then to only trade a future third-round pick and a third-round pick this year to move up from the second to the first round. And then right after, the Falcons give up a first pick next year to do the same exact thing. Like, the genius of Joe Schoen and why I was always a supporter of his, it just showed.
Yeah.
And then just the Giants finally getting their quarterback. I think it was one of those things where I hadn't done the research on who to take. Cam Ward was clearly the best quarterback in the draft as a prospect. But just the Giants finally saying, hey, this is our guy. You know, we brought Dable in because what Dable did for Josh Allen, and now finally Dable has his guy. But then just later in the draft, taking players like Scadaboo, the running back out of Arizona.
Have you looked into him? Because I remember when they got drafted.
Insane,
we were on the phone and you were like, I don't know a lot about him. And I was like, dude, Scadaboo, he's sick.
The Giants have a real running back room.
Yep.
And then the Giants now, when they won those Super Bowls all those years ago against the Patriots, it was because of our defense. And now we arguably, on paper, have one of the best defensive lines in football. It just feels like the Giants have an identity again. They have a future in the quarterback, and they drafted really good players. There's a ton of other players that they got as well. We can go into detail, but that's what was overall exciting for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I thought the Giants killed it. I thought they absolutely killed it. You know, the Giants are definitely a team the Patriots don't like. I don't like the Giants. I'm happy, though, to see Giants fans excited about the Giants because it's always good to be excited about your team. But yeah, I was really hoping they were going to do something silly and grab Shedeur Sanders and grab Jackson Dart there, and it was going to let Abdul Carter fall to the Patriots, which would have been so awesome. But moving on to the Patriots, Will Campbell, I'll die for my quarterback. Like that man, when he went up there and he said that with that accent, I mean, I fell in love instantly with him and everything he said about it. He seems like such a great football player. And that's the thing I like about him. At his ceiling, we're going to have a left tackle for the next 10 years. And his floor, we're going to have a left guard for the next 10 years, in my opinion. You know, I don't think the small arm size, I don't think it's going to factor in the NFL. I personally don't. Joe Burrow has small hands. You know what I mean? Like, those were like all like the weird things going on when people get drafted sometimes. I think Will Campbell will play left tackle, but even if he does play left guard, the draft value isn't great for 4th overall, but we got an amazing player with our 4th overall pick and someone to protect Drake May, which was just the main thing we needed. Will Campbell pick A+, absolutely.
I add something to Will Campbell as well. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the position he plays, the Patriots loved the person. Yes. That was the thing that the Patriots were sold on. I remember hearing stories by the end, right before the draft started, Campbell was loved in the Patriots front office. And that was the thing that, you know, regardless of the position he plays, you got a leader. You have a guy, I mean, again, I'll die for my quarterback. Like, I'll fight and die for him. This guy is putting a lot of work to get where he is, and you can clearly see that. And that sometimes, especially in this new NIL period of college players, I just think the Patriots, they it's amazing when the best player available lines up with need, and that was what happened with the Patriots. So I loved the pick.
Yeah.
I loved it. I followed the Patriots more closely than the Giants actually during the draft, and then I started looking at the Giants draft picks, and I was like, holy crap. But the Patriots, yeah, Will Campbell was an all-star.
Yeah, the other offensive lineman prospect was Amar Menbu. I'm pretty sure I'm probably mispronouncing that. The Jets took him. Great pick for the Jets. Hate the Jets. That's all right though. There was a lot of talk. Maybe I think he was ranked a little bit higher. I think he's just slightly more athletic than Will Campbell, you can say. But I like the Will Campbell pick better. We needed to address the left side of the offensive line. We drafted a left tackle. Menbu is on right. We have to move him to left. That can be a headache sometimes, I've heard. So I'm happy we took Will Campbell. And the other thing, going back to what you said, it seems like he wanted to be a Patriot. And maybe he's just also kind of like, he got drafted. He's going to hype up the Pats for sure. It doesn't seem like that to me. It seems like he wanted to be here. And that's also the best thing you can say about a prospect. And then, going into our next couple picks the Patriots took, we took Trayvon Henderson, running back with our 2nd round pick, Kyle Williams, wide receiver, 3rd round pick. And then with our 4th round pick, we grabbed a center, which I was super excited about. We released Andrews, which I was super sad about because that dude is awesome. And was just such a great player for us. And then we signed Bradbury from the Vikings, and Bradbury was released by the Vikings. Now, good offensive linemen don't get released. I hope Bradbury does good on the Patriots, but I don't think he's going to, and we needed to address center in this draft, and we did, and I've heard a lot of really good things about Jared Wilson. Same with Kyle Williams and Trayvon Henderson. Those are both positions I think we needed to address. Ramondre Stevenson, I do really like. I don't know if we needed a running back, but I keep looking into this guy, and if Mike Vrabel likes this pick and feels like he could do something with him, I like this pick then. And not to mention, he's a great blocking running back. And that's something Drake May needs when he's throwing. So I think overall a great pick. I've heard a lot of people who I trust say this is a running back who could go for 10 touchdowns and 1,400 yards next season for the Patriots. I don't know if we could get that with Ramondre Stevenson, but I do know Stevenson's going to get what we need to get done next year because we have a lot of holes we're still working on. And running back isn't the biggest one, but we needed it. And then Kyle Williams, I've heard a lot of great things about him. I heard he's speedy. I heard he's awesome. I've heard he's always open. I really need to look into the film myself before I give a huge evaluation. But the best thing I can say about the Patriots draft, you can tell I've been thinking about it a lot. The best thing is it's the process of how we drafted this year, because you can take the pick and that's good. You know what I mean? You have the 1st overall pick, need a quarterback, take a quarterback, makes sense, but it's about the process in which you do it. Last year, we needed a wide receiver in the 2nd round, and we traded back with the Chargers. The Chargers end up taking Ladd McConkey, and we trade back to take Jalen Polk. That's not a good process to draft somebody. If there's a decent wide receiver that's sitting there and we're trading back, I don't like that. I like the fact we stayed and we picked with a lot of our spots, and how we got Kyle Williams I like, because I think we wanted another wide receiver who got taken by the Texans. Funny enough, his last name was Higgins, I think. We wanted Higgins, but Higgins got taken. And then I think we wanted the guard the Dolphins took, who traded in front of us. So we ended up taking Trayvon Henderson, which is just, again, the process in which we drafted this year, I really, really like. And I think this draft, and a lot of people are saying it, is going to really work out for the Patriots because we're addressing positions of need and we're helping our young quarterback. So I think I have so much to say about the Patriots draft. I think it's awesome. I think we absolutely killed it. I liked last year's draft, but it was so much more unknown in my opinion. This one feels more secure.
Couple things about the draft for the Patriots. Really good draft. I'm going to agree with everything. It's in the Patriots DNA though. They always got to take a kicker and a long snap. They always have to.
We need a kicker. We don't have one. We actually we cut Sly, and we
they took him in the 6th round. I'm looking at it, and then the long snapper with the 7th round pick. Those are interesting. That's just like a Patriots move from an outsider.
I don't know about the long snapper. We needed a kicker, but I have no idea about the long snapper.
Trayvon Henderson. I am off the
Stevenson
running back. I think Gibson might be a better running back than Stevenson right now. Stevenson had a lot of issues from fumbling to drops.
He did have a lot of fumbles last year. No, I do agree.
And a guy like Trayvon was honestly behind Genty in a lot of boards as the running back 2 in this draft.
Exactly.
And somehow fell to the 2nd round. I really like Trayvon Henderson.
I agree. The more Williams, I look into it, I like it.
Yeah, watch the film on Kyle Williams. He's awesome. Yeah. Washington State wide receiver. The guy is not just fast, he's quick, and there is a difference for people who maybe aren't as affiliated with football. Fast is straight line speed. Quick is ability to move and angles, and that's where he's impressive. He's like an awesome red zone receiver, which Drake May needs, along with a Stephon Diggs who can teach him. Those 3 picks, I love that they went offense the first 4 picks. It wasn't until round 4 that they started taking defensive players, and that makes sense because of where the Patriots focused on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. Let's build the offense through the draft. And so I think truly I believe this, and this is going to be so biased what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. The 2 best drafts were the Giants and the Patriots.
I know. Isn't that no?
They
Definitely, like we can focus in on them, but I'm going to have to agree. We're going to look at them more than any other team, but like, and you know what the truth is though? If Travis Hunter, which we will talk about the Jaguars and the Browns,
we got to.
If Travis Hunter does come as advertised, that's going to be a really, really good trade in about 3 years. I don't know if he is. That's a debate. But if he does come as advertised, which Jacksonville does think he will, Jacksonville might have stolen the draft, but I don't know yet. It's just right now I'm high up on the Patriots.
We'll talk about Travis Hunter giving up quarterback trade value for a guy who's going to play 120 snaps a game. Is a bold choice. We'll talk about him in a second. I just really want to give. I want to give the Giants and the Patriots a lot of credit. I think they both came in different situations, right? The Patriots are year 2 of a rebuild, and they smashed it. I thought they did a great job with their picks they had. Kicker and long snapper, a little strange, but taking a center, I think was great. The wide receiver and the running back, get Drake May some weapons, and then get him a bodyguard at left tackle. I love that. And then the Giants, the more I watch of Jackson Dart, the more I love this kid. I need to just take a minute and talk about this kid. I don't think so. To all Patriots fans, you can't be a Drake May fan and not be a Jackson Dart fan. They're very similar prospects to me. But the difference is, in my opinion, is Jackson Dart has played 3 full years of college football and is 21 years old. He's a kid. And the thing I love about this pick for the Giants, he needs to sit behind Russell Wilson and Jameis potentially for at least half a season, if not a full year. Daniel Jones didn't get that choice. And sadly, neither did Drake May. But a guy like Jackson Dart, where he might need some time to mature, especially coming from a very, I don't like to say the word gimmicky, but just different offense from Ole Miss, gives him time. I just like the kid. And we're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders, but as I researched more on Shedeur, I wasn't as high on him. And it wasn't that I wasn't high on Jackson. I just hadn't done a lot of research. But then the Giants pick him. I started watching the film. I watched the John Gruden episode with him. I implore you to watch that, by the way. It is so cool.
Yeah, I've heard. I watched the Will Howard episode, funny enough.
Yeah, you got to watch the Jackson Dart one. And the only other thing about Jackson Dart, I watched, obviously, he played in college. He has a full body of work. But there's one game where he plays LSU from 2 years ago with Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson Jr., and Malik Neighbors, and he beats them. He fourth quarter comeback wins that game. I mean, this kid has a lot of potential. So, but those are the 2 best drafts. I mean, I could go into a whole ton of other things like Darius Alexander, the D tackle that the Giants picked up in the 3rd round. Now we have Darius Alexander, Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Carter. Like, that's insane.
No. That's a defense, and the Giants have always been known for their defense. You know what I mean? That's
how
you guys.
Lines.
Yep, that's how you guys have won Super Bowls. So no, I think honestly, you know what this is? This is Dable saving his job.
And Shane, both of them.
Now, did you hear? And did you think? I don't know. We probably heard different rumors around draft season. That's the way it works. But did you hear that the Giants liked Dart, but Dable liked Sanders?
I heard the opposite. I heard the GM liked Sanders. Dable liked Dart because of a bad interview Dable had with Sanders.
I've heard about that interview.
So can we maybe switch to the Sanders discussion?
Yeah, we can. Well. So honestly, we can move on to the Jags and Browns draft, and let's talk about the Browns because they did draft Shedeur Sanders. So yes, we can move on to Shedeur Sanders.
Let's start. The problem with Shedeur is a good kid. He doesn't have a bad head on his shoulders. Shedeur has been recruited his whole life, and no one told him that the draft is not a recruitment process, it's an interview process, and there's a difference there. So he was going into these interviews thinking teams were going to take him in the top 10, not realizing these teams were trying to figure out if he was a first-round pick. And so the rumor was Dable had a really bad interview with Dart and with Sanders. And what I mean by that is Sanders didn't come prepared. Sanders threw some of his teammates under the bus in plays where they broke down, and it just wasn't a good interview. So we'll talk more about Sanders. The Browns, in my opinion, are going to be the smarter trade in the Jacksonville Browns trade. Travis Hunter to me is a great kid, super talented athlete. I mean, you watch his highlights on both sides of the ball, really good. I think he's a better wide receiver. I actually watched a good amount of film on him. Again, I was really buying into this Patriots hype that he might fall to 4.
Yeah, me too.
Better wide receiver. If you look at Colorado, they played a lot of zone defense, and he was not on an island by himself shutting down receivers. They were playing a zone concept defense, cover 2, cover 3, and he was covering zones. Mm-hmm. So not that he's not a good CB, but he's a better receiver. Jacksonville gave up a lot. And Jacksonville, you have to remember, they hired a young kid. I want to say he came from L.A.
Yeah, for general manager. What's his name?
Yes.
Did you see his press conference after they drafted him? That's one of the more hype things I saw. And if it doesn't work out, that's going to be the most memed press conference of all time.
And you got to give him credit. He's trying to make a splash.
Yep.
It feels like Hunter could be this QB changing player, but people have to understand college and the NFL are so different, and playing in those two different leagues, let him do what he's going to do. But it just seems like if I was his agent, I'd be like, you don't want to play 2 positions at the same time because they're not going to pay you $80 million, $40 million as a top tier wide receiver, and $30 million as a top tier cornerback. They're only going to pay you for 1. So don't risk your chance of missing that payday.
Yeah.
So the whole thing seems a little strange to me, and I just felt like the Jaguars gave up a lot. Well, the Browns, they have 2 first-round picks next year. Now, they did draft 2 quarterbacks. They have 5 quarterbacks right now. I'm going on, but...
No, you're fine. You're good. Keep going.
Let's just start. I'm going to focus on Jacksonville. They have a lot this year. Trevor Lawrence needs to step up. This guy was not just the first overall pick. This guy was like a Caleb Williams first overall pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can't miss Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Allen, who has not panned out. New coach in Liam Cohen. It's exciting. He did a good job with Baker.
Duval.
New GM. The Jaguars have a lot of things to be excited about, so I do think Travis Hunter will be good, but it would not shock me if within the first 6 games, he's only a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then, if that's the case, final thing, that's a lot to give up for 1 wide receiver.
I agree completely. Again, it's kind of similar to free agency, and it's like a silly thing to say, but it goes a little bit unthought sometimes. Sometimes you see the draft and you're like, why would you do that? Why would you trade that much? But if it works, if they got Travis Hunter and he comes as advertised, it will be worth it. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's going to come as advertised. I don't know if you can get it done the way he wants to get it done. I don't know if you can play that many snaps and last a season. I don't think so personally. But if he can, it might be the steal of the draft. It might be Trevor Lawrence's best new weapon, and that would really help develop Trevor Lawrence along. But I don't think this is a great trade for the Jaguars. Losing your second this year and your first next year, while that team has so many holes, the Browns are so smart for doing it because they have so many holes. Neither of those 2 teams are Travis Hunter away from winning a lot. You know what I mean? That is just the truth with those 2 teams. The Browns are building for the future where the Jaguars want to win now. And honestly, as I say that out loud, it makes sense. You know, you did draft Trevor Lawrence, and if Trevor Lawrence is this prospect you think can do, and you paid him, you paid him a lot. If you think he can do that, you feel okay trading up to get Travis Hunter and maybe give him the new weapon that he needs, that Ferrari that he needs to get into the end zone. Now, he has Brian Thomas Jr., who is an absolute stud and was very underrated last year. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, their running backs, Bigby and Etienne, both had down years. They did draft a running back.
They need better O-line, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is you have to build
you
have to build the trenches, and then who do the Browns take? Mason Graham. Build the trenches. Now you have Mason Graham and Myles Garrett on that defensive line. The Browns are going to be a pain. The Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers now have to deal with that each twice a year. That's a pain. That's a problem. You have to change your game plan now. Again, if the Jaguars work out in about 3 years, it might be insane. I don't think it's going to work out, and I think the Browns are building for the future. The Browns did a very smart thing, first time ever said on this podcast, and will definitely be the last time ever said on this podcast, but the Browns did a very smart thing by trading back.
And the thing is, even in 3 years, if Travis Hunter's everything is advertised, what's the negotiation period going to look like for this guy? This guy's going to ask for $70 million, and the Jaguars going to be like, no, we're paying you as a wide receiver. And he's going to be like, BS.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. Even if this works out great. So it's bold opinion of the day. No matter what happens, I think the Jaguars lose this situation because the only thing they win is they have a ton of hype right now. He was a super hyped player. You have all these media people, a lot of them, who are just speaking out their butts saying, let him do it, let him do it, let him do it.
He's going to be great.
Because you want the TV ratings, because everyone's going to want to watch it. But if I was the general manager, I'd be like, I'm giving up a first-round pick next year, a second-round pick next year, or this year, and he's either going to work out and he's going to ask for a ridiculous amount of money in 5 years. I wanted the cap space for it. Or he's just going to be a wide receiver, and I just gave up quarterback haul value for a wide receiver who, by the way, may not have been the best wide receiver in the class. He may be, but I think the Browns, kudos to them, great job, quarterback-heavy class next year if some of the quarterbacks come out.
I was about to say that too. If all of them, if all the ones who can declare for the draft next year do, there's a lot bigger of a class this year coming up. But going on with the Browns draft, they did select Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel in the third round. My jaw dropped when that happened because when that I thought that I stayed up that night watching. It was like 11 p.m. when that draft happened, that pick happens, and I'm like sitting there and I didn't have it on TV. I just had it up on Google. And I'm just watching the thing doing work, and next thing I know, I see Dylan Gabriel, and I'm just shocked that that's not Shedeur Sanders. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, Browns aren't taking Shedeur Sanders, so Steelers, I guess. And then little do we know, 5th round next day, Shedeur Sanders gets taken by the Browns as well in probably the most insane drop ever.
The thing about Shedeur, I'm excited. This is the topic that I've really been listening to because it was a amazingly. I mean,
yeah. Well, just like a quick question: do you think any team actually had Shedeur Sanders high or no? No team.
No team. Because what happened was. So this is the question for everyone to think of. When Cam Newton wasn't a starter, did any team pick him up as a backup?
No.
When Tim Tebow was a starter, when he became a backup, did any team pick him up as a backup? Because you don't want your backup quarterback stealing your headlines.
Yeah.
The Browns had an amazing draft, and all we're talking about is Shedeur Sanders. And that is the last thing any team wants, is your backup quarterback being the biggest story on your team. Mm. And so now the Browns have this whole storyline they're going to need to work through with Shedeur. And the problem was Shedeur wasn't a high enough talent to have this much media attention. And again, he thought he was being recruited. Shedeur did not have an agent through this draft process. So what happens is college prospects, they get an agent, and that agent sets up meetings, has conversations, reaches out to contacts. Hey, this guy might be a great fit for your culture. Shedeur had none of that. All he had was Deion, who, by the way, a lot of people are tired of Deion's crap.
Yeah.
Matthew, we're in the week of the Super Bowl, January, and what's the biggest story?
Oh yeah, Deion to the Cowboys.
Deion Sanders is Deion telling teams or telling podcasters and interviewers, I'm not going to let Shedeur go to certain teams.
And you can go find him. He even said he was on a podcast, and the Colorado colors are the Saints colors, and he goes, I wouldn't mind it if those colors drafted my son.
Like, you know what I mean? And then they ask him, are there teams you specifically don't want him to go to? And he goes, yeah, but I would do it behind the scenes.
Like Eli. And the guy asks, like Eli, and he goes, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, why would an NFL franchise want to get anywhere near that?
And then they watch the film, and they're like,
yeah,
late first round, middle second round pick. But now there's quarterbacks that are comparable to him who are going to be wallpapers. No one's going to see them. They're in the back of the room. They're just part of the wall. And they're going to be absorbing. They're going to become a good, reliable backup. That's not Shedeur.
No.
And so what happened on the 5th round of the Browns is the owner walked down, looked at Kevin Stefanski, and I forget the GM's name, and said, this kid is the best kid on the board, draft him. And that is what happened. The Browns owner made them draft Johnny Manziel. The Browns owner made them bring in Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean, you saw how upset Kevin Stefanski looked.
They're just sitting there, and they're like, yeah, they drafted Shedeur, and this is them.
Yeah.
They look like potatoes. They look like potatoes in Idaho. So that the story of Shedeur, I feel for him because I don't think anyone kind of pulled him aside and said, hey, be careful. But that's the story. He was acting like he was Cam Ward when he wasn't. And we should talk about Cam Ward because
we're going to get to Cam Ward. We're going to get to Cam Ward. Another thing about Shedeur Sanders is he was like 1-7 against Big Ten teams. he did not play great when the time came. He played great against all these bad teams, kind of similar to Zach Wilson in the COVID year, who popped off and got all of his stats insane, and then everyone thinks he's this great quarterback and it just doesn't work out. So I'm curious. I agree with you. I think no team had him that high, but I'm curious if it was just the bad interviews that are getting rumored, which again are just rumors. We do not know if these are true or not, but they seem to be true just from how everything has happened. Do you think Shedeur just really fell because of those interviews at all, or do you think it more has to do with the play? Now, I know you said what you just said, but do you think one factors more than the other?
Yep. So the fall from round 1 to round 3 has to do with his play. And then from round 3 to round 5 has to do with the storyline no team wanted to pick up. Because, I mean, again, you have these kids being drafted, and these are good players. You have Scadaboo going to the Giants. You have Henderson going to the Patriots. And all they're talking about on ESPN is Shedeur Sanders. Yeah. That's all they're talking about.
Well, I mean, trust me, we're going to get to stupid Mel Kiper here in a second.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, though, is teams, owners were going down and taking them. I read a report that 3 teams just took him off the draft board. He was not going to be drafted.
That's wild. That is wild. Just
taken off the draft board.
The difference in perception from NFL teams to draft analysts that's insane. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't know if we've ever seen it before. I can't think of a draft fall like that.
And you got to think of these teams. They're hiring these scouts to come in and do the work of the analysts, but make it a full-time like what's the word, incognito job.
Yeah,
like you're taking information and not telling anyone. You're just telling your general manager. And so these teams have their own scouting reports. They don't care what Mel Kiper has to say. Mel Kiper had him rated as the number 1 wide receiver number 1 quarterback in the draft.
Yes, no. And so moving on to the Titans draft. The Titans with their first overall pick, and the world has seemed to have forgotten, but the Titans drafted Cam Ward first overall, who was a 0-star recruit and then was taken first overall. That is a very, very cool story. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos just talking about what he did in high school, him and his dad driving hours starting at 3 a.m. to go to these random schools in Texas so people could see him throw and hope he gets some school interested. I mean, he worked very hard to get where he is today, and that is a very cool thing. It reminded me a little bit of Josh Allen. Josh Allen was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, and he had to work very hard to get drafted. It had to get very hard to get a scholarship to a school and then to get drafted. So I hope Cam Ward works out. I have no ill will against the Titans other than it's just where wide receivers seem to go to die for some reason. They love going there.
Or Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, Tyler Lockett goes there this year. It's like, all right, see you later, Tyler Lockett. You're done. The Bengals guy who was there for years is still there. Boyd? Yeah, Boyd is still on the Titans, which is insane to think about. Yeah, and they have then Ridley. It's like, all right, the Titans are always so interesting. But great pick. They needed a quarterback. They went quarterback. Really awesome. But the entire time Cam Ward was being drafted, Mel Kiper is sitting there just talking about Shedeur Sanders, not shutting up about Shedeur Sanders, showing all the film about Shedeur Sanders. Literally, it's showing footage. Cam Ward is on the phone crying, and Mel Kiper is going, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this class. If the Titans don't take Shedeur Sanders right now, it would be a mistake. It's just like, Mel, easy, bud. Easy. Let's take a second.
That guy's
someone's getting drafted first overall, and a historical moment is happening, but you can't seem to shut up about one player. And the entire weekend, the entire draft, it was just Shedeur Sanders. That's all we heard about. And it was definitely the most interesting thing. Was I checking it more often in like the 5th round to see if Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, I was. It got me. But at the same time, it's just so frustrating because it's like, shut up about Shedeur Sanders. It's just a decent quarterback. It's nothing else. You know what I mean? So it was frustrating to see. The Titans had a great first overall pick, though.
I want to see the TV ratings for the 4th and 5th round of this year's draft compared to last year's, because I am sure it is quadruple.
Yeah. I'm sure it's so much.
Everyone was watching.
That's so true.
Cam Ward is a put your head down, talented quarterback, and what I mean by that is there's no media stories about him. He causes no problems. He has talents like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. A huge arm, super athletic, popped off at Florida. Happy for him. Happy for the Titans. The AFC South needs to become competitive again. And with Jacksonville getting their guy, the Titans getting their guy, you have the quarterback battle going on in Indianapolis. The Texans are relevant again. Like, it's fun to see those teams starting to beef up. Yeah. I feel for Cam Ward, but at the same time, The Titans just take their player. They're excited, and the Titans knew this months before. And there was, I mean, Cam Ward did one interview. Cam Ward went to one place, and he went to the Titans first. And I guarantee that meeting said Titans said, "We will not take a trade. Do not waste your time. We are picking you."
Billy, do you have what you would say is the worst overall pick in the first round?
Yeah, for me, it's Travis Hunter. I think he's a great player, but I think the value was not there. As we said earlier in the show here, it's going to go two ways. He's either going to be everything is advertised, and you're going to have to pay him a disgusting amount of money, which it's not worth it because, again, each side of the ball plays about 60 snaps a game. He's playing 120. That's double the chance of getting injured, and now you have to pay him as two players because I know what he's going to want.
Yeah.
Or it's just a wide receiver, and you just gave up a quarterback's haul for a wide receiver.
And you have a wide receiver.
Yeah, and so that's where I just think that pick, it's exciting and it's flashy and again, fun to watch on draft day. When that trade came in, it was like, wow, this draft is going to be different. Okay, all right, the hype was built up. But if I was a Jaguars fan, I'd be pretty bummed out. I just don't see this turning out well. So that was probably my least favorite pick of the first round.
My least favorite pick, this could really work out. They could end up having a no-fly zone defense, and it's an insane thing to watch, but I thought it was weird that the Broncos drafted a cornerback in the first rounds. They have PS2, Patrick Surtain II, the reigning defensive player of the year, or was he the defensive? He won something. Like best quarterback or something. Yeah. To my memory, he won something this past year. He's a great player. I don't really understand. There was a lot of great running backs in this class. I don't understand why they didn't try and draft a running back or maybe go back and want someone, because I'm pretty sure they drafted before the Chargers. Do you have draft order up? I don't remember exactly if it was Chargers drafted first or Broncos drafted first.
I'll have to look. Let me look it up while you keep going.
Yeah, because my favorite pick, not counting the Patriots because it was Will Campbell, but my favorite pick was the Chargers grabbing Omarion Hampton, the running back from North Carolina? Yeah, North Carolina, same school Drake May was from. Such a great pick, just such a good Jim Harbaugh pick. The trenches, the offensive line for the Chargers is incredible. Pair him, they're going to run the ball down the middle. It's going to be hard to stop the Chargers. And if Omarion Hampton was sitting there for the Broncos to take and they didn't, I think that's silly.
They did. Broncos picked 20, Chargers were 22.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Okay. That did go how I thought. Because I just don't understand. The Broncos need a running back. They really desperately need a running back. They don't have someone great. Now, they did take, I forget his first name, but Harvey, I think in the third round. Maybe he'll work. The value there might be better. That's the thing with the running back. It's true. So. It might really work out. But Omarion Hampton, I mean, that's a big dude, and he looks awesome. He was one of those guys, because I like the chemistry sometimes players can have from college. He was someone I was actually looking at the Patriots to potentially look at, because him and Drake May know each other so well. I was like, all right, hey, that could be a cool duo we could have. But yeah, I just don't understand the Broncos for doing that if you have the best cornerback in the league. You could have two amazing cornerbacks. It turns into this no-fly zone, and the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the league next year, and I'm eating my words, and I'm like, all right, they picked a great player, and Omarion Hampton's not great, But just from the positions of need, I don't understand these picks, and I like the fact the Chargers went and grabbed Omarion Hampton, even though they have Najee Harris. That reminds me of a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, two running back duo that they can win games with.
Yep, absolutely. That's becoming more common now, is this two running back room where you have a Thunder and Lightning, Sonic and Knuckles sort of thing. So it's cool.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to know your answer for this. We can be as biased as we want about this because we're going to say our teams, but who won the draft?
It's Giants won it, Patriots were second.
Patriots won, Giants too.
That's fair enough. You could say that. I think the Giants had better value in the later round picks. I think Scadaboo at 4, that's an amazing pick.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the Giants, for example, awesome. The thing that was crazy was a lot of Giants fans, the tackle out of Purdue, Mebo.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be our 4th round pick. And a lot of people, it was like, do you take the best player available or do you take who you need? So they take Scadaboo in the 4th round. Mebo falls to the 5th round, and the Giants get him there anyway. I just felt like the Giants kept drafting players that were on higher levels from where they were getting them. And then again, if Jackson Dart turns out to be what I think he could be, I think, you have guys like Dan Orlovsky who are like, this could be the steal of the draft in a few years. It's like, how did this guy fall this low? And so I think things like that, I give the Giants and then Abdul Carter's the best player. I mean, you watch his film and you see what he can do both as outside linebacker and as defensive lineman.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense. But the Patriots, I mean, their offense is legitimate with Stephon Diggs, the wide receiver, I forget his name, out of Arizona.
Kyle Williams.
Yep, Williams, and then Hendrickson, the running back, along with Gibson and Stevenson, and then Drake May in year 2 and a competent offense with Josh McDaniels. I think, and then again, the Patriots offseason, they signed a lot of really, really good players for good value. Mm-hmm. You could argue the Patriots maybe had the best offseason, but I think the Giants won the draft.
It genuinely speaking, just no bias at all. If Jackson Dart actually does work out and you guys traded back into the first without giving up a first, yeah, you guys and got a franchise quarterback, yeah, that there's no one else who won. That's insane value. That's an insane draft. That's so well done by the Giants. So I got to give you credit there if that ends up working out. Carter, yes, I got to give you credit, but at the same time, that's kind of like a no-brain. Yeah, you got to take Carter.
Yeah, exactly.
And so at least, sometimes the Giants don't have a brain and pick a terrible player. Same with the Patriots. N'Keal Harry, for example. I'll
do you one better. Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. Cole Strange.
Eli Apple.
Yeah.
No, Evan Neal.
Yeah, Evan Neal. It's a good one. Yeah, a lot of really bad first picks. So it could go south, but if it ends up working out for the Giants, I would actually say the Giants probably won this draft. Also, the Browns are coming away, I think, as victors with the trade and Mason Graham. I just think that's great value. Moving on, though, to the Shedeur Sanders prank call, which, genuinely prank calls with drafting, this isn't new. This is something that's been happening for a very... Yeah. It's happened for a very long time.
Happened to 5 players this year. It happened to Abdul Carter.
It happened to Tyler Warren. Yeah, it happens a lot. Where the mistake was made was they posted it online. Now, I'm sure you saw how much it cost the Falcons and Jeff Ulbrich.
Jeff Ulbrich had to feel it more.
Yeah, $100,000 out of his pocket. $100,000. I mean, that's like you're looking at your 21-year-old. Again, 21 years old. This kid isn't 15. Like if you're 15 years old, you know what I mean? You're like, all right, it's not a big deal. 21 years old. Like you're not a kid, you're an adult. Like I can't even imagine doing that and then costing your dad that much. I mean, his dad must want to trade him and he's another defensive coordinator's kid. It's like, all right, get him out of here. You're on another team now, kid. I don't like you anymore. Like that's just,
I just love how the NFL is taking no accountability. Why was the NFL sending out Shedeur's number to everyone in the NFL? Well, so what happens is every week...
you go.
So every week in the NFL, they send out a waiver report. Players that cleared waivers, players that cleared injury reports, players that were released, all this different stuff. They sent a separate memo individually with just Shedeur's new phone number to that distribution list. Why does everyone need his number? Well, that's insane, Matthew. That's insane.
Apparently he fell, so maybe everyone did need his number. You know what I mean?
I guess so, but I don't even know why Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons, who can't figure out what to do with their damn backup, need his number for it. And why does Jeff Ulbrich have it? Why doesn't the GM and the head coach have it?
Yeah, no,
so
it is.
The NFL has to take some responsibility here, and they didn't. They just fined the Falcons a pin needle on their back, and then they took $100K from poor Jeff Ulbrich, who
went through a lot last year. Poor Jeff Ulbrich went through a lot last year with the Jets.
Can't catch a break. I feel for him. And then he goes up in the press conference, takes an absolute bullet for the team, says 100% my fault, shouldn't have done it, shouldn't have left my iPad unlocked in my house. Okay,
dude, that kid. I can't even imagine if we did that to our dad. Like that kid's in a world of pain.
That's a rough deal, but I just wish the NFL had taken a little accountability. I think they need to start doing FaceTime calls, or they gotta stop distributing the numbers as far around as they are. It's just shocking to me the NFL did not take any accountability.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And
honestly, poor Shedeur. I felt for him. The guy's having the fall of his life.
Yeah, kick him while he's down. And truthfully, now that he got drafted, I don't think the Sanders care at all. I don't know if you're watching any of their live stream. Shiloh, the brother, seemed like he has a great sense of humor. The whole time he was talking about his dad's his agent. His dad sucks, so he fired him and hired a new agent that got drafted by the Bucks. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like he's got a great sense of humor. So I don't think the Sanders care at all. Like
No.
honestly, now that you got drafted, it's not a big deal. It's also just more or less funny that Shedeur did fall for it because the kid, I don't know if you saw the video, was like, this is Mickey Loomis, where we're like, and he wasn't convincing at all. You know what I mean? It was like, I feel like if I picked that up, and now hindsight's 2020, but I feel like if I picked it up, I would have been like, this isn't right. Not only that, it's a division rival. Like it's the Falcons.
And the Saints.
Yeah.
It's the Falcons screwing over the Saints. The story's great.
It's so funny, but honestly, and it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh, poor Shedeur. No, it's a prank call. It's not that big a deal. It's just funny how all of it happened and how big a deal it's turned into.
Well, it's funny because if Shedeur hadn't been live streaming, no one would have ever heard of this. But Shedeur live streams every moment he's not in the bathroom. Yeah. So, of course, everyone sees this happen. And then it's like, wait, is this actually a thing? And then other players start coming out, like Abdul Carter, the third pick, and he goes, yeah, I got called. He said he was the GM of the Browns.
Yeah.
And they were trading up to get me.
Yeah, exactly. It happens all the time, I've heard. So it's I feel like Shedeur Sanders is definitely getting a lot of media attention, and we're talking about it. So that's probably why.
We're part of the problem.
Yeah, we're part of the problem. All right, moving on. Not talking about him anymore, but talking about someone else who's also, I don't know Shedeur Sanders. I don't want to say he's annoying, but we're going to move on to Aaron Rodgers, who's definitely
the most annoying.
The most annoying.
I just want to start with, I'm so happy he's not a New York Giant. I would have been completely off this team if we had brought in Aaron Rodgers. He's so pompous. Go ahead.
It would have been great, but his thing on the Pat McAfee show, that might have made my year. If the Jets did do that to him, I have a lot more respect for Aaron Glenn. My favorite part about the whole interview with the Pat McAfee show is Aaron Rodgers goes, I'd play for like 10 M's. He called it 10 M's. All right,
never heard that in my life.
That's someone who's made $100 million and probably doesn't need to make 10 M's.
100 M's.
Yeah, dude. And then the whole time he's like. And he said there's some sensitive things going on with his inner circle, as he always words it.
Why didn't he say that in January when we were all like, why haven't you signed? Why did he wait?
I don't know. And I do want to be sensitive to it because that genuinely could be a lot. And, I don't want to say
if it's true. I'll be that guy. I'll be that guy.
That's the thing, though, with Rodgers.
Goes on ChatGPT. How will people stop harassing me? Come up with a story that makes you feel bad for other people. Come on.
And it seems like something, again, I feel like guilty saying it genuinely, but it feels like something he's going to bring back up to get sympathy later. It feels like something like that. Oh, you're out of focus for some reason. There you go. Oh.
I'll come back.
Yeah. Here we go. There we go. It feels like something he's making up to bring back up later to get sympathy. I mean, and especially when he was like, yeah, they made me fly over on my own dime. I'm crushed. Rodgers, no, your own dime? Rodgers.
What is this, Matthew?
the smallest
violin in the world playing for you.
It was about as funny as an interview it got. I just like it because Pat McAfee posts this thing on X like you think all these questions are going to get answered, and he just goes on there and goes, open to everything, attached to nothing. It's just like, Rodgers, you're so annoying. I would imagine the Steelers are probably thinking he's coming there from their draft. I would imagine the Steelers think, all right, Aaron Rodgers is coming here. But at the same time, the Steelers actually might be doing the right thing and finally tanking a year and getting a good quarterback.
Yeah, after paying DK Metcalf $1 billion.
Which is the weirdest thing if DK goes there. And who's going to be throwing the ball? It's not Trubisky.
Mason Rudolph.
Rudolph. Yeah, it's Mason Rudolph.
He's back.
Yeah, he's not. His head's still slightly curved in from when Garrett got him. But yeah, no. I mean, the whole Rodgers situation's so funny. I personally do think he'll be a Pittsburgh Steeler this year. I don't think he's going to retire. If he's not a Steeler, he's retiring, though.
Or he's waiting till someone gets hurt. But again, we're seeing the importance of the backup quarterback now. Most teams have like 3 quarterbacks and 1 on their practice squad, so they don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So I just don't see the way veteran quarterbacks used to play the market in the middle of the season to get picked up and taken to a team where there were injuries isn't always the case anymore. That's not as common. If I was Rodgers and wanted to play, I'd be begging the Steelers. But you've got Steelers players like Cam Hayward coming out being like, you're either a Steeler or you're not. What the heck are you doing? Yeah. Like, Aaron Rodgers is the antithesis of the Steelers culture. I am not a Steelers fan by any means, but they are old school, hard-nosed, no drama football. And Aaron Rodgers is out here walking in a towel on the beach with a guy taking pictures of him from a bush so he can post it on TMZ.
Yeah,
like, you're telling me this is the marriage? Now, again, as a football fan, all football fans, I would love to see this, because watching press conferences of Mike Tomlin talk about Aaron Rodgers playing horribly, which we all know he will,
it would be so
it's
funny.
going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. But as a Steelers fan, I feel for them. And Steelers fans that are like, they want Rodgers, it's major cope. I don't know. I would have, again, Shador to the Steelers made sense to me. Bring a guy with a high personality, a lot of baggage, to a coach who can handle it. This guy somehow kept AB under the radar for 5 years.
Yeah. We didn't know a whole lot yet. Then he left and went to the Raiders, and we learned. We learned quickly.
Everything. Yeah. Let John Gruden be his coach, and we'll figure out what's going on. But either way, I'm just saying that was the pick. So the Aaron Rodgers, he is a goofball. Pat McAfee is a genius.
Wrapping it up with a fun little game. I always like to put you on the spot, not tell you a couple things. I'm going to give you a couple players, and I want you to whether I'm going to reword that there. I'm going to give you a couple names, and I want you to tell me whether or not they're going to take the next step next year or take a step back next year. All right?
Love it.
Lot of quarterbacks, couple other players, though.
Let's do it.
Trevor Lawrence.
Step. Oh, wow. You give me a tough one.
Yeah, you're starting it. You can't say the same. You guys step back or what is it going to be?
Step forward. Step back or step forward. Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to say step forward. I've been, you know me, I've been bullish on Trevor. Remember when he got signed back in April of last year, or this time last year? I was pretty bullish on him.
Yeah.
Looked like a fool, but I think Cohen, the new coach, I think Travis Hunter is a good wide receiver. The O-line just got to hold up.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Step forward. I'm going to say step forward.
I agree. I just think Brian Thomas Jr., regardless in his sophomore year, will help Trevor Lawrence enough. And Brian Thomas Jr., mouthful there, is an absolute dog. I love that guy.
Was he a second-round pick last year or a first-round pick? It's okay if you don't know.
Late first, to my memory, because he's who I wanted the Patriots to take in the second, but then, of course, he went. Yeah,
I watched the Ole Miss Jackson Dart against Jaden Daniels, and it was Brian Robinson Jr. catching all these touchdowns from Jaden Daniels. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe he's still on the team, and then I'm like, so the Jaguars?
Yeah.
Like, okay, and then another reason not to trade up the King's ransom to get another wide receiver.
Yeah, dude went for 1,000 yards last season and was amazing. This might be an easy one. Drake May.
Yeah, step forward. Drake May is. Drake May, to me, he's just got such a good head on his shoulders. I watched his whole press conference yesterday.
Me too.
He's just such a good kid. He's what makes me so excited about the Patriots. And if the Giants hadn't taken Dart, I probably would have been full board on the Patriots. I was like really flirting with that.
Yeah, no.
Drake May, step forward. Josh McDaniels is a proven offensive coordinator. And one of the hidden things, no one's going to hire that fool to be a head coach again. You have your offensive coordinator for 10 years.
That's why I meant to bring that up. I totally forgot to write it down here. That dawned on me the other day. It's such a great choice because we're not going to he's not going to get hired next year to some new team, and we're not going to have to find someone new, and that every quarterback finds themselves in those positions. So yeah, I agree. I don't love McDaniels as a head coach, but an offensive coordinator, he's done the Patriots very well. And he's always changed his system. The Tom Brady system was different than the Cam Newton system, which was different than the Mac Jones system, and all of them were productive when he was there. So I'm hopeful.
If he can take Mac Jones to the playoffs, he can get Drake May to the divisional.
1,000% agree. Next player, Caleb Williams.
Step forward. Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator, man. I mean, come on.
The head coach.
He might be he might now. Can Ben Johnson handle head coaching responsibilities with offensive coordinator? But either way, the Bears last year were the epitome of bad coaching ruins good teams.
Yep.
Like they truly were a talented team, and so they're only more talented now this year. They revamped their whole offensive line. I think and Caleb Williams, again, great head on his shoulders. I felt like he had a lot of hype. It didn't live up to it, and it didn't beat him down too much. And so I'm excited for Caleb. I'm excited for the Bears. I'm excited for Rome Odunze. I'm excited for DeAndre Swift. I'm excited for Cole Kmet. I'm excited for the other tight end they took. It wasn't Tyler Warren.
Loveland.
Yeah, it wasn't Tyler Warren, who I liked a little better, who went to the Colts.
Loveland had a good
But
season last year, but then McCarthy went, so he didn't have a quarterback last year, so that kind of
yeah,
dropped his value a little bit. But I think the Bears just still really liked him. He's a little bit more of a receiving tight end, I've heard, which they buffed that offensive line, so they don't really need a big tight end there to block for Caleb Williams, although he probably will have to, of course. Yeah, I agree. Step forward. I think I right now I would put money on that Ben Johnson will work out as a head coach, but you just never know because he's never done it before. And I know that Gerard Mayo wasn't a coordinator, but having just been burned from Gerard Mayo, I'm going to say take a step forward. I have a lot more faith in Ben Johnson as a head coach than I do Gerard Mayo, just personally, because I think they've proven a lot more in the NFL, obviously. But having just been burned from a new head coach, it's tough to sit there and go, oh yeah, they're going to take the next step with a rookie head coach as well. That's a difficult thing to do, but I'm going to say takes the next step. I feel like I was going to say something else that I was going to reply to you, but I totally forget now. But
it's okay.
Don't matter.
There's a lot of great players on the Bears. With a good head coach.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say was the Bears are 3-time offseason champions. The Chiefs could not be 3-time regular season champions, but the Bears have done it 3 times in a row now. Where everyone's like, all right, Bears offseason, they killed it again.
They do keep getting better, no doubt.
They do. Marvin Harrison Jr.
God, all these step forward. I mean, Marvin Harrison, I feel like he had a rough year last year.
I'm not a Kyler Murray fan, so I just don't feel like he's going to be able to get it.
Cardinals are building something special over there. They've had a couple nice sneaky drafts. Like the sneaky drafts this year, sadly, were the Jets and the Cardinals.
Agreed.
Under the radar, solid picks for the value. Marvin Harrison is a talented kid who knows what he needs to do and has like a good support system. His dad, Marvin Harrison Sr., was one of the best receivers ever with Peyton Manning and the Colts.
Oh, yeah.
I think Marvin Harrison takes a step forward. I think he dealt with injuries last year. And I think Kyler was dealing with some injuries too, and just the connection wasn't there. And Kyler's even come out and like taken ownership for that. And I think Kyler gets a bad rap. Maybe not the best quarterback in the world, but I could see them being better. I think they are going to be better than the 49ers. Like, that's my bold take. Cardinals have a better record than the Niners. I really think so.
That really could be. I am going to say step back. I don't know. I have no reason to sit here and think the Cardinals.
I'm sure they regret not taking Malik Neighbors at 4.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I completely agree. Talking about the Jets, Fields.
Step forward.
I actually agree this would be a step forward. I think this will be one of the best offensive lines he's played behind, along with some of the best weapons he's had.
Yeah, I'll give you my step backs after if I don't get to say them, because I do have some in mind. But Justin Fields has been all over the place. Obviously, we saw what the Lions did with Jared Goff, failed first-round pick, bring him in, give him some stability, build that offensive lineup, get a run game going. I don't know who the Jets offensive coordinator is. I'd be curious to know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll have to do some research, but I could see Fields taking a step forward in a system where he doesn't have to be Superman. And again, the way they handled Aaron Rodgers, and the best part was you get all these questions from the media after Aaron Rodgers does this thing with McAfee, and they didn't say one thing. No. Like, they are no nonsense. Their draft was under the radar. That's why they would have never taken Shedeur Sanders. There was rumor. No, they're not. That's not the Jets now. Yeah. That's not what Aaron Glenn is about, and so excited for that. Yeah, step forward.
Tua.
Step back. Finally, you gave me one of my step backs. I think Tua has hit his ceiling. I think Tyreek Hill is aging. Tyreek Hill, he might be in prison by the time the NFL season starts. I'm really not sure. You see the videos of him with his kids, and it's actually not funny.
No, it's
pretty despicable. I don't think Devon Achane is as good as everyone gives credit for. They lost a lot of pieces on defense.
Same with Waddle. I don't think Waddle's that good.
Yeah, a lot of pieces on offense. They lost some offensive linemen. I think they're going to take a real step back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm agreeing with you there. Najee Harris.
Step forward, man. I think with the Chargers, I couldn't believe they took a running back, to be honest. But again, it's that dual running back threat. And John Harbaugh, he wants to do a whole game where he doesn't pass the ball once. I'm telling you, that's what he wants to do. Najee Harris is a talented back that the Steelers mismanaged to the point it was laughable.
Agreed. 1,000 yards each season he started. That has to do a lot of the production.
Never missed a game due to injury.
Never. Yep.
In his life.
Huge, big running back, awesome dude. I hope he does really well. I hope him and Amari and Hampton kick some butt for the Chargers, even though they are cursed, so we'll probably not see it.
I was waiting for that one.
But... and then of course Anthony Richardson.
I think Daniel Jones will be the starter.
I agree. I was really high on AR last year and I got burned, so I'm not high on him right now.
Shane Steichen's. Let's talk about This is an interesting one. You have to break down the facts here. Shane Steichen is a good offensive coordinator, and he's a pretty good head coach. The Colts have a very talented offense, in my opinion. Yes. Underrated is all.
Yes,
Jonathan Taylor, underrated. Pittman, Downs, and now they have Tyler Warren as their tight end. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty ridiculous offense. But here's the thing, man. Daniel Jones is an impressive player. You will not. It just didn't work out with the Giants, but I think the Colts see a lot of potential. And if you remember, Daniel Jones, his best game was against the Colts in 2022, where he had like 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 touchdowns in the air, and got taken out in the fourth quarter because they were up like 42-10.
Yeah,
like it was ridiculous. So the Colts obviously know Daniel Jones's potential. He's a grinder. He doesn't cause any problems. I mean, Anthony Richardson last year was tapping himself out of games. The whole thing is just weird to me. I think the Colts really want to try to get Richardson to work. But I think by week 6, Jones will be the starter.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I really want Anthony Richardson to work out.
I do too. I like the kid.
Yeah,
I like the prospect.
I just think he's so much fun to watch. And I just would want him to, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be a step back. And this is actually my most interesting, in my opinion. Yeah. Last one. Bryce Young.
Oh, you didn't get the one I was thinking. Bryce Young's going to take a step forward, man. McMillan, the wide receiver they drafted. Not McMillan. What's his name?
Tetairoa McMillan. You're right.
Yeah. He looks like a good receiver. Bryce Young, man, they bench him last year, and then Andy Dalton gets in a car accident. He comes back, and they were competitive down the stretch.
He looked really good coming back, but he's had half a good season of football. And now again, I just speak from experience as a football fan. Mac Jones cooked the end of his rookie year. We won 8 in a row. Cooked. Everybody was expecting him to take that next step his sophomore year. Everybody. Now, this isn't Bryce Young's sophomore year. This is going to be his junior year. Maybe that's a difference. I don't know. Maybe Dave Canales is such a great head coach. I waiting to see. I just don't know. And right now with the Panthers, just from where they are, I'm going to say step back. I like Bryce Young a lot as a person. And if Bryce Young works out, make me very happy because he just seems like such a nice kid. But I just don't know. And I don't want to sit there and bet on. I think we've seen a lot more good than bad. Or a lot more bad than good, I meant to say.
I think the exact opposite. I think he's going to have a better year this year. I think it just took a little bit for the NFL to slow down for him. And I think Kalal, the head coach.
Dave Canales.
Canales, I think it slowed down the game for him. I think they got a lot of good pieces over there. I think Adam Thielen is a super underrated wide receiver who brings a lot of knowledge.
Yeah,
So I think Bryce Young's going to be a little better.
Who was your player? Who was your
Jayden Daniels, big step back.
Yeah,
I think they won 7 one-score games last year, and they got exposed by the Eagles. I think they're going to take a step back. I think they're still a good team, but I think people have a lot of film on Jayden Daniels now. I don't think it's going to be as easy for him.
I think he might step back like C.J. Stroud stepped back last year.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Really wasn't a step back. I think they won one more game than they did the year before, but his numbers just weren't great. So I still think that team will have a lot of success and probably still be either second in the NFC East. But I think that's a tough one. I would say step back, but like the tiniest step back, just because I think there's just gonna be a lot of pressure. That'll do it for us today. We appreciate anyone who sat around to the end, and have a great day.